Stitching together something called Europe has taken decades. The EU does have its own flag, which can fly in 28 member states. But is Britain on the point of unpicking it all? Today and tomorrow, David Cameron is visiting other European leaders, like the Dutch Prime Minister, trying to convince them it's time for a fundamental change in the EU. Now, the Dutch Prime Minister may be sympathetic, but many are not. And if Britain demands changes to EU treaties, is there any chance of success?
The European Union can be extraordinarily flexible and extraordinarily nimble when it wants to be. We've had 2 treaty changes since 2010, so anyone who says it can't be done is simply flying in the face of history.
So after his first stop in the Netherlands, the Prime Minister continues his European tour this evening in France, meeting President Hollande. Then tomorrow he goes on to Warsaw to see the Polish Prime Minister, before going to Germany tomorrow afternoon to see Chancellor Merkel. So as David Cameron tours European capitals, Parliament is back, and one of the first items of business for MPs, that European referendum bill. And not everyone wants to give it an easy passage. In one of Parliament's office buildings, the man leading for the Scottish National Party on this told us the government can be outvoted, for instance on votes for 16 and 17-year-olds.
On key aspects like young people voting, I think there's every chance we can build a parliamentary majority. I think this government is going to run into the rocks in Europe, and I think that's going to happen sooner rather than later.
We now know the question for the EU referendum. It is, should the UK remain a member of the European Union? We'll have to answer that question in a vote sometime before the end of 2017, perhaps as early as next year. At the House of Flags in Cambridgeshire, they're familiar with the symbols of the EU and the individual member states, and they're torn.
As an individual, my heart is saying that we can be stronger as a country out of the European Union. With my business hat on, my brain is saying that we need to be part of the European Union, and I guess that we need to see what happens over the next 2 years to see if we can bring those 2 things closer together.
The debate's now underway. Does Britain stay in the EU, or is it time to cut ourselves out?